Welcome to the Counselling Tutor Podcast, the must-listen-to podcast for students of counselling and psychotherapy. Here are your hosts, Rory Lees-Oakes and Ken Kelly.
Hi, I'm Rory, and with me as always is Ken. How are you doing, Ken?
I am exceptionally well. This is episode 103 of the Counselling Tutor Podcast. And what can you expect in today's episode? Well, we're going to be kicking off looking at the future of counselling qualifications. Where is that road leading to? How might future counselling qualifications change? And I know you've got a lot to share with us on that one, Rory. Then we're going into Practice Matters with Rory, where today you're going to be speaking about counsellor and client attachment styles, Rory.
Absolutely. I'm going to be talking about why it's so important to understand your own attachment style. So when we work with clients, we don't collide with their attachment style. Super important. And one thing I think that's sometimes missing in counsellor education, sometimes I think there's not enough emphasis put on that because it can have quite a big impact on the therapeutic relationship.
Definitely. And there's going to be a free download for that, which we'll give you more details on later. So you're going to want to stick around for Rory's super duper download on attachment styles. And then we're going to be ending episode 103 by looking at why we work as counsellors with the feelings that the client brings. Why don't we work with the narrative or the story they tell? Why is it that we go to those feelings? So the importance of feelings. But starting us off, looking into the future, Rory, gazing into the crystal ball, the future of the counselling qualification. And I think if we look back before we look forward, counselling qualifications have changed dramatically since you did your counselling qualification.
Absolutely, Ken. When I started 16 years ago, the highest level of NVQ, which is a vocational qualification, was level 3. And if you look at my qualification, it says a level 3 diploma in counselling. And that makes me a qualified counsellor. You know, I'm a full member of an ethical body and I've been practicing for a long time. I have insurance. And the year after I graduated, the government got involved in qualifications and shifted the level up to level 4, which really the level you could call yourself a practicing counsellor, level 4. And that was it. It moved up. And it looks like there's going to be a change. Now, I don't want to editorialise, and I don't want to set a panic going. This is purely a consultation document. But I think it's an interesting view of where counselling qualifications and how accreditation may go. And it's called the Scope Ed Framework. It's a idea kind of put forward by the British Psychoanalytical Council, the United Kingdom Council for Psychotherapy, and the British Association for Counselling and Psychotherapy. And at the moment, they're in a consultation phase. But what they're proposing, and as I say, this is very much a proposal document, very much a discussion document. There's nothing written in stone. What they're proposing is there's going to be 3 tiers of counsellor, and they're going to be looking at different qualifications, giving you a different title. That's how I read it. And I think it's an interesting development if it comes to anything, because we've seen this before. In 1909, there was talking about regulation of counselling, and that didn't get very far. And they've been talking about regulation since I graduated 16 years ago, and there's still no nearer to it. But I think it's something to keep an eye on, and I think it's something to be aware of, because, you know, in a lot of countries, if we think of America or Spain or Europe, a lot of practice qualifications are at master's level. Yeah. So it's something to be considered, something to keep an eye on. And of course, it's a consultative process, which means that if you're a member of these organisations, you have a voice. As a member, you have a voice. You can voice your view on it. But it is something to be thoughtful of, and it is showing that counselling has now come of age, and people are looking at professionalising the profession.
It is. It's very interesting. I was recently on vacation, Rory, in South Africa, and I have a very good friend who is in private practice in South Africa, and we were talking about the difference in the qualifications. She is a lecturer of counselling. She lectures at a university, and if you're in South Africa, you need a minimum of a degree, of degree to go into practice. And as you've already mentioned, that varies across the world. There are countries, Canada I think is another one, where you need to hold a master's degree in order to sit there and work with somebody's pain, their feelings, their journey that they have traveled. And I guess it's understandable in that we need to be insightful, we need to be educated in what we practice, we need to be responsible, we need to undertake continuing professional development. I know, Rory, you have over the last 16 years probably done your counselling qualification again and again and again and again and again in the terms of the CPD that you've done. As we've seen, that prices always go up, isn't it? If you look back 10 years at what prices were and you look what they are today, prices go up. And so it seems like so do the educational requirements for counselling.
Yes, and what I would say is that, through the years that I practiced, when I started, no one was talking to any great extent about post-traumatic stress disorder. I did my research on PTSD. And I know a lot of my peers who I presented to were fascinated by it. They never heard about it before, and 16 years on, we know so much more about trauma. And I've got to be honest, it doesn't really appear as a criteria within a lot of level 4 educational bodies. And it's something that we, as a therapist, I meet on a regular basis, and I know colleagues do. So there's definitely something there, but it will be interesting to see how this plays out. And as I say, I don't want to alarm anybody. This could be quite a long process. It started in November 2018, and it really is a consultation document. We'll put a link into the show notes so you can inspect it yourself and make of it what you want. But I do think that it's possibly going to change the shape of practice in the UK. But as I say, at the moment, just in the consultation phase. And we've been here before with regulation and nothing came of it.
Yeah, I think the message that I'm getting loud and clear, Rory, is don't panic. Those words, if anyone's read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, they speak about the book with the big words, big friendly words, don't panic, printed very in bold letters on the cover. And I guess, if you are a future student, then you will learn what is put in front of you and you will work to those requirements. But if you are already qualified, there's even more reason not to panic, because when they do make these changes, they're usually people that are already qualified and are members and are doing everything they need to do and keeping their CPD and doing all of their required supervision, are able to transition or kind of keep up. So it's not like you may find yourself going back to university and doing another 3 years to be able to keep the practice that you've been in for 16 years. So they are usually, it's brought in slowly, as you've already said, and in stages.
Yes, and we'll put a link into the show notes. Inspect it yourself, have a look. And, if you're a member of the British Psychoanalytical Council or the United Kingdom Council for Psychotherapy or the British Association of Counselling and Psychotherapy, then, as members, you have a voice and you can help shape that policy. You can tell them what you think. And I think that's a really great thing. But as I say, only in the planning stage. And I would say keep calm and counsel on.
I like it. And what you're saying there of get in and get your voice heard, I think that's really important. It's no good not saying anything now, watching it play out and then grumbling afterwards. We have a say. Exercise that right. And of course, go and have your say on that. So great topic to kick us off today, Rory. And Practice Matters is our next area that we're venturing into. Speaking about the counsellor-client attachment styles. Attachment comes up a lot, doesn't it, in our Facebook group where people ask a lot of questions. Tell us more about our Facebook group and how people can join, Rory.
Okay, I'll do that then, Ken. So if you're wondering what our Facebook group is, maybe you've not heard the podcast before, and if this is your first podcast, you're very welcome. Type in Counselling Tutor into Facebook, click on it, you'll find our group. It's a closed group. You knock on the door, we let you in, and over 23,000 like-minded people. We've got counsellors in there, we've got qualified colleagues, we've got supervisors, we've got students asking questions and talking about the theory and supporting each other. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. And if you're not there, you are missing out. Counselling Tutor into Facebook, click, come in and we'd love to have you join the party.
Yeah, and that attachment comes up as a common theme, does it not? People talking about attachment. And again, I mean, you mentioned this as we were kind of going into today's episode. Attachment maybe not taught in the depth we might like to see, Rory. So what can we expect from Practice Matters today?
Well, I'm going to be speaking around the importance of understanding your own attachment style, and also being able to make an opinion on your client's attachment style, because attachment styles are the basis of how we relate to each other and how we feel in the world and how secure we feel. And if we've got opposing attachment styles, you can have some quite difficult cross transactions in counselling. So knowing your attachment style, and I'm going to give you some graphic examples of that. When I say graphic, I'm going to give you an example of what might happen from popular culture. So stay tuned for that.
Oh, looking forward to that. And we're going to catch up with Rory and Practice Matters after this very short message.
Take the stress out of your counselling studies and get the support of Rory and I by joining us in the Counselling Study Resource. See how Counselling Study Resource can help you. Visit counsellingtutor.com. That's counsellingtutor.com.
Anyone who has even a slight interest in the music world will have heard of the Gallagher brothers, Noel and Liam, from the band Oasis. Between them, they performed some of the most popular and iconic songs in the history of music. They are just as famous for their tempestuous relationship as they are for the music they played. It's also well documented that as children, they experienced violence from their father, which led to Noel having to attend speech therapy for a stutter. So why do I mention this story in the context of a client-counsellor relationship? Well, both the Gallagher's history and their relationship to each other, or lack of relationship, speaks volumes about the possible attachment styles and patterns of relating to themselves and others. Noel is famous for deriding other bands and telling the world what a genius he is. Part of this, I suspect, is clever self-promotion. However, it also speaks of an I'm okay, you're not okay life position, sometimes referred to as an avoidant, dismissive attachment style. Liam, on the other hand, is unpredictable and prone to drama. From walking off stage in the middle of gigs to emotional outbursts and his well-documented romantic history, it is clear that he craves attention. Don't believe me? Have a look at his Twitter feed. When considering attachment style, this I'm not okay, you're okay life position has strong correlations to ambivalent attachment. In therapy, the ideal relationship between a client and a counsellor is the I'm okay, you're okay life position of secure attachment, which promotes an adult-to-adult, non-judgmental interaction. Without knowledge of our attachment style, it is possible we may misattune to the client, withdraw, or even become dismissive of them. No matter how much personal development we undertake to develop a healthy attachment style, when under stress, we may sometimes revert to our original attachment style. Knowing your attachment style is an essential part of managing yourself and your own process when engaging in the therapeutic relationship.
Thank you as always, Rory. I think we have to understand attachment style, and most importantly, we need to understand our own attachment style and how that can potentially influence the relationship in the counselling room. And if you want to get Rory's super duper handout from today's episode, then all you need to do is go to our website, which is counsellingtutor.com. We're based in the UK, so there's 2 L's in the word counselling. Counsellingtutor.com. At the very top of the page, you'll see all the different links. Just click on the podcast link. It's going to take you through to all of our past podcast episodes. Make your way to episode 103. That's today's episode. All of the show notes are there, including the links that Rory mentioned earlier in today's episode, and you can download Rory's super duper handout from that page free of charge. You just put in your email address and we will get that to you. And of course, if you are already a member of our paid for side of Counselling Tutor, which is called the Counselling Study Resource, then that handout has already been added to your handouts vault. Log in, it is there waiting for you. So moving from attachment into why we work with feelings. Tell me more about that, Rory.
Yes, it's interesting. This is a question that was asked. We recently did a question and answers session for Counselling Study Resource members and other interested people as an open lecture. And we got a lot of questions. Some we couldn't answer because we didn't have the time. And one of them is, why do we work with feelings, and what are feelings for? Well, the answer is a bit kind of nuanced. The reason we have feelings as human beings is because they are the most direct form of working out danger or where we are in the world. So, if you think of going through the tundra with your spear chasing a saber-toothed tiger, I'm not really sure that human beings and saber-toothed tigers, before anybody writes in, we're in the same time. So please don't write in and tell me that. But the idea was that if said saber-toothed tiger or fierce animal charged at you, you'd get a feeling of fear, and you would, for want of a better word, in my Gorton patois, leg it. And the reason for that, run away. The reason for that is that you don't have time to think, and feelings come from the part of the brain that gives us an immediate reaction. And that is one of the reasons that we work with feelings in therapy, because clients can sometimes have an immediate reaction, but they cannot connect it to what their thoughts are. And that's what sometimes we call the edge of awareness. They feel something, but they cannot conceptualize it. And that's why counsellors work with feelings. And it's amazing through my years of practice where someone's had a feeling and actually they've not connected it to a thought. It's just, why am I feeling this way? And by working with a client, they now can connect it and think, well, this is it. And that's what we call a light bulb moment. It's because of this. It's because this happened. And once that happens, it's in awareness. And once we work in awareness, people have the capacity to change. But they can only change what they know.
The feelings are interesting. And I remember long before I embarked on the journey to study counselling, when I would see counsellors or psychotherapists or psychiatrists, because they were kind of all painted with a very similar brush in films and television programs, they would often be talking about feelings. And I thought, it's a flowery thing. It's kind of this woo type of thing. I'm wiggling my hands as I'm doing the woo. In other words, not defined, not scientific. And it was interesting when I started studying, looking at the main theories, that they are very feeling based. And if you look at person-centered, we speak about incongruence. And incongruence is when you are acting one way in the world, but you're feeling something different inside. It's an incongruence. It's a mismatch between what you are feeling and the way you are acting. And I think that it only made proper sense to me once I was in placement and I was working with clients, and I would so often hear the following presentation. This is what's happening, blah, blah, blah. And they'd give the story, and then they say, I'm feeling this way. And that may be a negative feeling or fear or overwhelm or whatever that may be. And then they would say, but there's no logical reason why I should feel that way. I shouldn't be feeling this way because when I look around, I've actually got this, this, and this, and this. And it was a very clear mismatch between thinking and feeling. And so often our thinking is kind of drives who we are, and the feelings are pushed down, they're repressed, they're held inside. And counselling is about setting them free without judgment and accepting those feelings as they are. Because so often the feelings that human beings carry, it's part of the human condition, they feel are not acceptable to others. They can't show those feelings. They can't express those feelings, sometimes even to self. And an example of that is if you look to a baby, you will see those emotions very, very, very clear in a baby. When they're upset, they're going to bang their hands and be very angry. And when they're hungry, they're going to cry, and they show the feelings that they're feeling inside. But as we kind of grow up, we're given introjected values and conditions of worth that tell us that we shouldn't act and feel that way. Oh, come on, don't cry. You're mummy's big boy. Big boys don't cry. Saying, hey, don't trust those feelings. Don't show those feelings. You need to ignore them, swallow them down, and just carry on. And it's very much a cognitive process that I'm just going to get through this and I'm going to hide my feelings. Whereas when you do work with those feelings, there is great therapy therein.
Indeed. And the thing about being a whole person is about embracing both the thinking, the cognitive side of you, which Ken talked about, and also the feeling side. We think of the cognitive and the affective domain, and the affective is how we feel. And that's what makes people balanced human beings. And if we don't take notice of our feelings, then what may happen is we could get into some quite difficult situations. Feelings also link into the subconscious.
Yes.
So sometimes we get a feeling that we cannot conceptualize. And, sometimes having a feeling, it may be something that we're just not aware of. It doesn't mean that we're totally ruled by our feelings, or you'd just be like my 2.5-year-old grandson who runs around. I call him Little Ed, as a homage to Freud and the completely free, uncontrollable child. Not that he's uncontrollable, but his emotions dictate what he wants. He doesn't put any thinking in. So what he wants, he wants. And we can't run around like 2-year-olds. So we have to put thinking in. And sometimes our emotions can take over us and stop our thinking. CBT works with that, doesn't it? Looking at irrational thoughts and the feelings connected. But yes, that is why we work with feelings, because they're part of the whole person. Yes, we work with the narrative, but we work with the feelings to help connect them together. And congruence and organismic self in person-centered modality is all about being connected. Your thoughts and your feelings connected together. You're kind of in sync. And when you're not in sync, that's incongruence, basically.
Yeah, definitely. So the theories kind of outline it quite strongly. And the thing for me with feelings is they're difficult to describe. They're difficult to describe. They happen within you, and there's almost a physical nature to them, but also a mental nature to them, in that you feel, if you're feeling sad, for example, draw sad. You can't draw, you can't give it to someone else. And it's a very basic word. I'm feeling sad. It doesn't, for me, does not carry the weight of that feeling of sadness. It's a horrible thing when you're feeling really, really sad. And the word sad, I don't believe, carries the full weight of that. And it's difficult. We don't have words for feelings, again, because society does not encourage the sharing of feelings. It encourages the bottling away and carrying on. And when I say society, I don't mean all societies. I'm speaking general Western capitalist get on with it society, but we don't. There's very few words, so it's not surprising when a client comes into therapy and we start expecting them to go and into their feelings, discover their feelings, speak about their feelings, that they don't have the words to say what they're feeling inside. And that's why working with metaphor is so very, very powerful, because as you said, Rory, you're speaking about the edge of awareness now. You're bordering on that subconscious when you're coming to feelings. And when you work with metaphor, it makes it easier to describe. So sad might be, I feel like I'm out in the rain. It's just black all around me and it's pouring down and I'm cold and I'm shivering and there's nobody there because no one cares. That's stronger than the word sad. And that's working with metaphor or painting a picture around that. And that's why that lecture you did, Rory, on working with metaphor is so powerful. And if you're interested in Rory's lecture, it is available in the Counselling Study Resource. It's our paid for section of what we do at Counselling Tutor. And if you're a Counselling Study Resource member, jump in there, go and type in the word metaphor and go and have a look at the stuff we got there, because it's powerful stuff. But it all keys in to those feelings and inability to be able to describe them, yet it's where we work as counsellors.
Absolutely. And I can't say any more than that, other than in other languages, you're right, English is quite restrictive when it talks about feelings. In other languages, they may have lots of different meanings for feelings. So, maybe that's for another podcast. Maybe I'll explore that. But this has been a fantastic episode. We talked about the future of counselling qualifications. Don't panic. It was the outcome of that. Don't panic, but do read the show notes. In Practice Matters, I talked about counsellor and client attachment styles and why we have to be so aware of our own attachment styles when working with clients. And then finally, we discuss what feelings are for. What a great episode. And as always, stay grounded and stay safe.
Take the stress out of your counselling studies and get the support of Rory and I by joining us in the Counselling Study Resource. Counselling Study Resource, or CSR for short, is the world's most comprehensive assignment guidance and study support resource for students just like you of counselling and psychotherapy. See how Counselling Study Resource can help you. Visit counsellingtutor.com. That's counsellingtutor.com.
Thank you for listening to the Counselling Tutor Podcast. Find the show notes for this episode on our website at www.counsellingtutor.com.